The latest, suspect named in San Diego police shootings. The latest on the shootings of 2 police officers in San Diego. All times local 5 p.m. A San Diego police officer fatally shot in a gun battle had been awarded the Purple Heart in 2003 after he was stabbed by a man he had stopped for speeding. Jonathan Deguzman was a 16-year veteran of the department who received the award after getting stabbed in the shoulder by the man. Deguzman was one of 2 gang suppression officers making a stop Thursday night when he was fatally shot. The other officer was wounded and is expected to survive. Police arrested one suspect and detained another man who may be involved. 4:30 p.m. San Diego police have released the name of a suspect arrested in connection with the fatal shooting of one police officer and wounding of a second officer. San Diego Police Chief Shelley Zimmerman told reporters Friday that 52-year-old Jesse Gomez was taken into custody and is in critical condition from a gunshot wound but expected to survive. Police arrested a second man, 41-year-old Marcus Antonio Cassani, on an unrelated warrant. Zimmerman says police are investigating whether he was involved in the Thursday night shootings. Zimmerman says Cassani was arrested outside a house that SWAT had surrounded for hours. She gave no further details. 2:30 p.m. An hours-long SWAT standoff for a potential second suspect in the slaying of a San Diego police officer has ended after he wasn't found inside the house. Officers broke windows and pounded on the roof. They shouted on a bullhorn for the man to think about his family and surrender. After failing to find him, they raced about 2 blocks to another house, positioning an armored truck and robots outside. He wasn't there either. Police say the man is a potential suspect in the shootings of 2 officers, one of whom died. One suspect is in custody. 11:30 a.m. The San Diego police chief has released the names of an officer who was killed in a shooting and a partner who was wounded late Thursday. Chief Shelley Zimmerman said Friday that the slain officer was 43-year-old Jonathan Deguzman, a 16-year veteran of the department with a wife and 2 young children. The wounded officer is 32-year-old Wade Irwin, a 9-year veteran who is married. Zimmerman says the department is seeking to find answers to the senseless murder and attempted murder of our police officers. The officers reported they were making a stop and almost immediately called for help. It's unclear if they were stopping a car or a pedestrian. 11:15 a.m. San Diego Police Chief Shelley Zimmerman says a potential second suspect in the fatal shooting of an officer and wounding of another is in a house that is surrounded. Zimmerman announced Friday that evidence led them to the home, but she did not give any details. Zimmerman says the first suspect is in custody, hospitalized in critical condition with a gunshot wound. The shooting occurred late Thursday night when 2 uniformed gang suppression officers reported they were making a stop, but the chief says it's uncertain whether it was a vehicle stop or a pedestrian stop. The officers almost immediately called for emergency help. The officer who died was a 16-year veteran. The surviving officer is a 9-year veteran. The police chief says he's expected to survive. 9 a.m. San Diego police have surrounded a house located about a half-mile from the site of a gun battle that left one officer dead and another seriously wounded. A police officer used a bullhorn to urge a man to leave the house, and police detonated several loud devices. The standoff began hours after a traffic stop by anti-gang officers that led to a shootout. A police spokesman did not immediately respond to a message seeking comment. Police Chief Shelley Zimmerman says the two gang suppression officers reported they were making the stop shortly before 11 p.m. Thursday and almost immediately radioed for emergency cover. Responding officers put one of the wounded officers into a patrol car and rushed off to a hospital, but efforts to save him failed. Zimmerman says that officer had a wife and 2 children. 8 a.m. San Diego's police chief says an officer wounded in a gun battle during a traffic stop faces a long recovery. Shelley Zimmerman said after visiting the officer Friday morning at UC San Diego Medical Center that the officer has a long haul but is expected to fully recover. The officer's wife was at his side. Another police officer died in the shooting late Thursday. Both officers were shot in the upper torso. A suspect who was shot is in custody. His condition is unknown. Zimmerman says the gang suppression officers reported they were making the stop shortly before 11 p.m. Thursday and almost immediately radioed for emergency cover. Responding officers immediately put one of the wounded officers into a patrol car and rushed off to a hospital, but efforts to save him failed. Zimmerman says that officer had a wife and 2 children. 6:30 a.m. San Diego's police chief says the fatal shooting of a police officer and wounding of a second occurred during a traffic stop. Chief Shelley Zimmerman says the gang suppression officers reported they were making the stop shortly before 11 p.m. Thursday and almost immediately radioed for emergency cover. Responding officers immediately put one of the wounded officers into a patrol car and rushed off to a hospital, but efforts to save him failed. Zimmerman says that officer had a wife and 2 children. The chief says they are hopeful the wounded officer will survive. That officer's wife is with him at the hospital. 4:15 a.m. San Diego's police chief says the second of 2 police officers shot is expected to survive. Chief Shelley Zimmerman says in a Twitter post Friday morning that she had just left the hospital where the officer had just come out of surgery. Officials announced earlier that the other officer had died. The unidentified officers were shot Thursday night in a San Diego neighborhood. 3:15 a.m. Authorities say one police officer has died and another remains in surgery after being shot in a San Diego neighborhood. The department gave an update on the officers on its Twitter account early Friday, but offered no additional details. The shooting occurred late Thursday night. 1 a.m. Authorities say 2 police officers have been shot in a San Diego neighborhood. The San Diego Union Tribune says police are reporting that the shooting occurred late Thursday night. The condition of the officers was not immediately available. There was no immediate word on what touched off the shooting, which occurred around 11 p.m. PDT in the southeastern part of the city. No other details are immediately available.